Our next wheel-thrown form will be a mug. You are going to throw a cylinder. A cylinder is taller than it is wide in order to create a mug form. You're also going to learn about shaping your form. And then we're going to go on and refine the rim and attach a handle. So through my demo, I'm going to tell you some characteristics of a successful mug shape. You want to begin with about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of clay. You want to make sure that first and foremost your mug is large enough. Keep in mind that ceramics or clay can shrink up to 10% from the creation all the way to the glaze firing. So you want to make sure that you have an appropriate sized mug. So this is a little over 1 pound of clay that I'm using to throw this form. So as you're familiar with, I have moistened the surface of the bat and I'm going to slam the ball of clay down towards the center. So you're going to center it as you typically do. Only when you're done centering the clay, your base of the clay mound is going to be a little bit narrower than it would be for a bowl, because the base is not going to be as wide on a cylinder as it would be on a bowl form. Now, I have centered the clay, and this is a safe width for a cylinder. I want you to think about the mugs that you use every day at home and the approximate width of their base. That is what you're going for to start off the wheel-thrown mug shape. So I'm going to open it up the very same way. Remember to test the bottom thickness with a needle tool. You want to make sure that you use a needle tool to test the thickness of the bottom, because you do not want an excessively heavy form. This is an appropriate thickness for the base. So now I'm going to drag my thumb across the bottom to establish the base of the cylinder. You want to think about what it looks like when you're drinking a cup of coffee, tea, hot chocolate in a mug at home. There is still a flat base inside. So you want to make sure that you drag your thumb across the inside of the form. Now I'm ready to pull up walls. Remember, I'm going to start at the thickest part, and since it's a cylinder, I'm going to focus on pulling up and in. That will help me keep the form under control. You do not want it to flare out into a bowl shape, where it is very tough to get the form back under control again. Now, this area is nice and thin, but it's thick right here. So now I'm going to start at the base and pull up. Always thin out the top part of the form first. So again, I'm focusing on pulling up and in. You do not want to push your rim any thinner than what you see here. If your rim is too thin, it will chip very easily whenever you're trimming or even when you're washing it after use. So now I have a tall and even cylinder form. I have a trick for you for testing bottom wall thickness to make sure that you've pulled up enough clay at this bottom wall. This tends to be an area that people often forget about and leave a lot of excess clay. So I'm going to look inside the form and just push that needle tool through, pull it out, and that's the current thickness of my bottom wall. That's great. That's where I want it to be. So I have a little puddle of water on the inside. I'm going to get that out of there, and now I can begin shaping. There's 2 hand positions for shaping. If you want one large bulge on the form, this is the hand position you're going to use. Your outside hand, your right hand, is almost going to form a triangle like this with your thumb and your fingers. This little cup then goes on the outside of the form, and you have an air pocket right in here that you can push the clay into, yet this thumb keeps the form under control. Notice I'm not reaching across the form. My hands are in front of my body, they're braced, and I can push the form out into that air pocket to create a nice large bulge. I don't exactly like how the form is flowing from this bump to this base, so I'm going to reposition my hands again a little bit lower. I want a nice large bump right down here. That's going to flow a lot better. So now I have a nice fluid curve in this form. Now, I'm going to show you how to use a wood sculpting tool to remove a little bit of excess clay to save on trimming time. This is an optional step during COVID right now because you do not have this tool in your toolkit. However, when the studio is regularly running, this tool is accessible. You can purchase a tool like this online or at a local ceramics shop. But you want to dip that wooden sculpting tool in water, hold it at a 45-degree angle, and you can remove a ring from the base. So you're working at a 45-degree angle and pushing it down to the bat. When it hits the bat, you can remove it, and then you're going to slide a needle tool underneath the ring, and you've just begun the visual lift process, and that really saves on trimming time. And that will help lighten up your form. So I'm going to clean up that bottom edge a little bit. And get the water out of the inside. Now, when you're looking at a mug form, this is basically the center of the mug composition. That's how potters look at a ceramic form, as a composition, something that they are designing. So I'm going to create a little bit of emphasis on the rim and on the foot that will really help frame that bulge that's going on. It gives a visual beginning and end to the shape. So using my thumb, I'm just going to press a very subtle line into the form, top as well as at the bottom. And then I'm going to soften that with my sponge so it's not quite as harsh. Now you can see those subtle lines in the form give a little bit of a decorative element to it. Finally, I need to round the rim of the form. So I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm going to tear off a piece of paper towel, roughly about the half of a dollar bill, okay? Then I'm going to fold that in half, and it's on this fold that I'm going to use to round the rim. I'm going to hold it with my thumb and pointer finger and my middle fingers on the other side. So now I'm going to dip it in water again, wrap it around the rim, and now I can round the rim. So I have a nice round rim for drinking. So looking the form over, I'm going to clean up any excess water from the form, and it is time to pull my wire under it and call this complete. Next, I'm going to show you another way you can shape form. Now I'm going to go on to my next mug form, and I'm going to go ahead and show you the start to finish process again, but I'm going to move through it a lot quicker. But the more you see someone throwing, the more it will help you pick up little tips and tricks for throwing for yourself. As you become more experienced, you will not need to that measuring of the base. I already know that my base is about 1/4 of an inch in thickness, which is what you're wanting. Flattened out the form, and remember, keep those hands braced the entire time you're working. So I'm pulling up and in. Just using the tip of the sponge. Very little sponge contact. If you make too much contact with that sponge, it's going to snag your clay and throw it off center. So now I'm focusing on just thinning out that base. Gonna get the water out of the inside. Remove a little excess clay. I'm going to drag my thumb along the base this time. Now I'm ready to shape. This time I'm going to use the peace sign to shape. I'm going to create a series of small bulges, all right? So I'm going to start at the base, and I think I can get 2 little bulges in here nicely. Oh, by the way, you see that little wobble I have going on there? It's nothing to worry about. Because guess what? When you stop the wheel, it's no longer wobbling. And last time I checked, when you drink hot chocolate, you don't spin it on the wheel. So I am going to make sure, however, when I'm done, that my rim is even. You can see that the rim is slightly uneven, so I'll remove a ring during the refinement stage of this. So I'm going to create 2 little bulges with my peace sign. I'm going to have a finger on the top of the bulge and on the bottom of the bulge, and then I'm going to have inside fingers that push in between. So here I go. 1 little bulge. Oh, keep those hands really wet. That clay started to snag a little bit. 2 little bulge. So now I'm ready to check that that rim is slightly flared out for drinking. It's a little bit uneven, so I'm going to go ahead and remove a ring. Notice that when I hold my needle tool, I'm pointing it directly away from me. Not like this. That's going to snag the clay. Look what happens when I try that angle. See how it pulls the needle tool? That's bad news, all right? Keep it directly in front of you and remove your ring. So now I have a flat top. That's not good. We want to get that rounded. You cannot drink out of a flat top form. First, I'm going to get my subtle little lines there that will help bring a visual beginning and end to the form. Soften them. Now I'm ready to use that wet folded paper towel. Curve it around the rim. Support the inside and outside of that rim. And now I have a nice rounded rim, or what potters often call lip to the cup. So I have created 2 very different mug shapes. Both shapes will certainly work. So soon I will show you how to attach handles to your mug forms. There are a few points that I want to review regarding mugs and throwing the form itself. This is a great cup by local potter Mark Fitzgerald. He actually works in Dillsburg, Pennsylvania. He has a great cup here where you have a nice defined rim that ever so slightly curves outward, giving it an excellent little drinking lip for you to use quite easily. We've got a great pedestal foot, excellent visual lift. And remember when I was talking about those subtle lines on forms to really frame the cup shape? You see that quite evidently in Mark's work. Also, the handle, it is a single finger handle and has a thumb hold. We'll be talking about thumb holds whenever I do the pulling handle demo. Makes it very comfortable to use, holds the form nicely away from my hand. I swear by the fact that every beverage tastes better in a handcrafted mug. So whatever you're going to use your mug for, hot chocolate, coffee, tea, you will absolutely love it if you create a nice functional cylinder form and a really comfortable handle.